Welcome to Communication, Connection, Community, the Podcasters Podcast. This podcast takes a deep dive into modern-day communication strategies in the podcasting space. We chat with interesting people who make the podcasting and speaking spaces exciting and vibrant. We also dive into the podcasting community with news, updates, latest trends and topics from this ever-evolving space. So strap in. It's going to be one amazing ride. Let's dive into today's episode. And today on the podcast, we're talking about marketing. Now, by design, a podcast is a marketing tool. We're going to take a deeper dive into marketing, though, because there are many aspects about the marketing piece, not just for podcasting, but marketing in general that we really need to be cognizant of. And I don't think that as entrepreneurs and business owners that we're always doing our due diligence in this space. And I'll admit that sometimes I don't either. So who better to bring in a guest that can talk about it, who spent a lot of time in the space. Guillaume Wiatr is the creator of Strategic Narrative, the business strategy, consulting, and coaching methodology for entrepreneurial leaders of professional services firms. Through his company, MetaHelm, he steers experts, CEOs, and leadership teams to building successful businesses. They also love by growing narrative power, the leadership ability to defy the normal when the normal is wrong. His expertise is sought by clients ranging from solopreneurs to global organizations such as Microsoft, Spencer Stuart, AIG, Simrise, and the Gates Foundation, and many more. And I'm so thrilled to be chatting with him today. Guillaume, welcome to the podcast.
Carl, it's good to be here. It's very, very good to be here.
I'm so glad you said yes, or I said yes. One of the other, somebody said yes. I guess we both have said yes at some point to having this conversation. And I'm glad that we can do this. I'd like to start by congratulating you, because as a marketing tool, if I could just start here, you've done something that a lot of podcasters don't do, and that you've spent, I think you said you spent a year and a half or maybe even longer doing guesting on other people's shows, which I'm assuming was not just for the good of your health. I'm assuming it was for marketing or to get the messaging out that you like to share with audiences.
Yeah, it was, I did it for 2+ years. I've been a guest on 55 podcast shows. And initially, the reason why I wanted to do this is because I wanted to gain visibility as a thought leader and a business owner. And very quickly also was reminded that it's really about connections, also about practicing and exploring your thinking, your message, as a lot of people do. And I found a lot of meaning in this activity. And I'm glad I didn't jump into podcast hosting too quickly. Look, for some people's standards, they would say, okay, it's really, really slow. It takes you 2 years to decide if you want to do your podcast. But yeah, it became kind of a recon kind of exercise, but I made so many great connections too. A lot of layers of values in that exercise. I'm so glad I did it because I learned a lot. I met some wonderful people, got through super cool processes as far as how to onboard a podcast guest, but also some bad ones. I mean, some that I would label as bad ones. My experience wasn't great. And it's too bad because doing a podcast meaningfully is a lot of work. I know your podcast, Carl, is a lot of work. And for a guest, a serious guest, should be also a lot of work. Like before I get on a show, if I don't know the person yet, I spend a few weeks listening to the show when I have a chance, taking notes and so on.
Well, congratulations, as I said, for taking that step that, as you said, a lot of people don't do that. And you're right. There's good onboarding processes, and there's some not so good onboarding processes. Hopefully this one has been pretty good. I mean, I know off microphone, you asked me some questions, and I tend to have a very relaxed, laid back approach. And I like to have organic conversations as opposed to coming in with a litany of questions and this is always my caution, because in some cases, I don't know the guest. I didn't know you until we chatted, but we've chatted, we've connected on LinkedIn and some other social platforms. I feel like, and we're almost the same age. So I feel like we're brothers, right? Just maybe different mothers, but I feel like that we're we're kindred spirits, right?
I agree.
I think you hit the nail right on the head though, when you said that there's due diligence, that it doesn't matter what space you're in, whether it's the podcasting space, whether it's whatever level of business or wherever you're at, there's some things that you should be doing about the connection, because the connection leads to the relationships that you're going to build, which hopefully leads to clients and even, deeper nurtured relationships. So today, I do want to talk about, though, what you peg as meaningful marketing. So I'm going to give you the platform to to firstly start off by telling me, in your words, I mean, what do you mean by meaningful marketing? What is it?
For me, meaningful marketing is the type of marketing that creates equally value for the world outside, your prospect, your market, your clients, but also for you. It's really the process of creating and sharing material that deeply resonates with your audience, but also that is helping you explore, clarify, and articulate your thoughts in a new way. You're using marketing in that context as a way to find what's possible out there. I think it's a very interesting proposition because a lot of people, approach marketing with the belief that they know already what their message is. And I have worked with a lot of writers and coaches and in the communication space who are like, okay, great, we're going to do this fantastic campaign. What's your message? And like, well, I'm still working on it. And let's be honest, we are all working on our message all the time for the rest of our life.
100%.
To me, your message is something that evolve and should evolve. It takes a lifetime, for some really, notorious thought leader to just really arrive at a spot where they finally get the level of clarity they're hoping for. So this approach, that I describe as meaningful meaningful marketing or publication, sometimes I say publication, it's really an approach that emphasizes genuine self-expression and personal growth and connection with your audience. It's not for everyone. It requires you to be okay to fail and learn. It's probably an approach that will work well with people who are already interested or open to concepts like prototyping or agility. It is also an approach that I always recommend to align with smaller budgets. You want to be low budget on purpose, scrappy in the initial phases, so that you don't get too attached to the results. Because one of the biggest problems I see with my clients as a business coach is they want to dive in and get immediately the $50,000 or $100,000 marketing campaign without having done any test, and therefore they get on that process. But if it doesn't yield the results, or if the process is not a right one, they still pursue it because they're too attached to the outcome because they've paid a lot of money. So that's at a high level, some of the principles that I recommend following, to do meaningful marketing.
There's a few things I want to unpack there
Sure.
that you really and thank you so much for that in-depth answer, because I think that having that foundation certainly will help us with the conversation, but I think it's good for people going in to know what is this, and
I can give some examples and specifics and how I practice it too, if you will.
Yeah, poke me in a minute with that one.
Good.
I want to get back to this concept though, because you mentioned something that I have been advocating since years ago when I was in Toastmasters. Every now and again, you would have somebody in the organization who would say, "I've got a great title for a speech." Fantastic. What's it about? What's your talk about? I don't know. I haven't written the talk yet. So that goes back to something that you said about, what's the messaging? And, the messaging needs to be clear. But if you're starting at the wrong spot, or if you might have the greatest title in the world, but if your messaging is an absolute train wreck, it's not going to get you the result you want. And you need to be clear about what your messaging is going to be. And speakers, podcasters, coaches who are going, and anyone that's going out there and speaking about what it is that they do, which, by the way, as a former speaker trainer, should be everyone in business. And I'm assuming you agree with me. It should be a tool that you use all the time. But it seems to be a piece that gets missed.
Yeah, a lot of people want to overinvest in the thinking part of the process. Mm-hmm. And I think that my approach to this, my philosophy is you discover what you really meant to say after you delivered the talk sometimes. Actually, I'm working with a client right now, and he's launching a new business, and I have a framework that I call strategic narrative, and it's built with 4 key stories. They're typically they're notorious stories, and he prepared ideas and wrote stuff down, and then when I asked him to walk through what he wanted to say, he told me, well, I guess it's completely different from what I intended to do. And he felt bad. He felt like, oh my gosh, it's really, I see I'm unclear. I don't know what I want to say. And I reassured him and say, this is a normal process. Everybody has to go through this. And the faster you go through this, the faster you embrace it, and the faster you make yourself okay with the discomfort of not knowing what to do in the first place, the faster you get to the meaningful part of delivering a message for marketing purposes.
It's an uncomfortable place to be sometimes anyways. I mean,
Yeah.
most people, I think it's like, I don't know, 12% of the population is comfortable with public speaking, standing on a stage or speaking in front of a microphone. The rest are.
I read some stats more like 5%, but yeah, I agree with you.
So I'm in the 5% that doesn't mind doing it. Although I stuttered when I was a kid. That's in the earlier podcast when we merged our two podcasts together. But back in the early days, one of the things I talk about was that process of deathly afraid, stage fright. It was just debilitating, especially as a young lad. But now I embrace it full on, and I don't even think twice about it. If there's an opportunity to speak, for example, if I'm at a networking setting and the speaker is late or they're sick or whatever, I'll put up my hands. I'll talk for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's all I get. Okay. Toastmasters training has been good for that to, really truncate my messaging. But it's like 5 minutes, I can do it. But I'm really glad that you shared that. I want to get to the examples, but just before you do that, and maybe this will lead into the examples, you mentioned something interesting when you said it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think you explained the why or who it's good for. And maybe the examples that you're going to give will help to solidify that a little bit more. But is there a reason why everyone can't or shouldn't or doesn't embrace this?
It requires to let go of a lot of preconceived ideas. It requires to let go of the preconceived ideas that ahead of time exactly what marketing works for people, that it will take a lot faster than you think. So in other words, subsequently, it requires courage to approach this technique with the mindset of all I know is that I know nothing, from the famous philosophers.
Right.
So it's like kind of exploring in your marketing what might be some thoughts that are meaningful to people and meaningful to you. And so it's going to require quite a bit of emotional labor to execute, such as being able to email. So yes, it does lead into some practical examples. So one of the things that I have done for many, many years, it's to email at a high frequency your thoughts of the day, or vlog, video blog, which I do now 5 days a week, almost 5 days a week on YouTube. And considering that your marketing initially are just a bunch of seed ideas that you plant and you disseminate around you, and you see what resonates with your audience, and then you will double down and continue to repeat yourself and invest on the ideas that will be interesting to structure because your audience wants to hear more about them. So that's why it's not for everyone. It's a lot of people can't accept that. They want to do marketing that is a lot less organic. But in my approach, which is at the core based on authenticity, we take the time to first align with our audience. That's a key thing, especially for people who run companies that are based on knowledge and expertise, who see themselves running those businesses or being part of those businesses for a long time, and they're really passionate about the expertise they deliver. That's the time of marketing that aligns typically a lot better with their values.
Shouldn't that be a given for any business or organization, though? You should be aligning with your audience. Otherwise, if you're not in alignment,
right,
you're not connecting. That
it should, Carl, but there's a difference between what people need and what people want. And you and I are communications and marketing. We're experts, some people would say. And experts are very good at figuring out what people need, but not always what people want. And that's why I say that's not necessarily what you will want if you're considering doing marketing, or if you're working with a marketing department or building one, or any connection you have with marketing. That's probably not what you will want.
right.
You will probably want the fast ROI, quick recipes, and let's buy this AI robot that is going to connect me with 10,000 people a month, who, by the way, don't care about what you have to say, but that's okay. I get the number. So, and I'm mentioning this because that's also what I did, Carl. Several years ago, somebody approached me to bolt on this robot on my LinkedIn profile, and it was a very compelling proposition, and I ended up with so many connections that on appearance were great. I was so excited. People could care less. Like no one could cared really about what I'd say. So I scratched that. I deleted thousands of connections on LinkedIn, and now I actually cap it to 1,000 on purpose because I really believe in the power of those meaningful connections. Everyone in my network, I know what they do. I can message them, and therefore I can run ideas by them. I can test things. I can help them. Hence why I have a thriving business, because it's really built on that idea that my marketing has to be meaningful first. I have to, as you say, alignment with your audience first.
And relationships are easier to manage when you don't have 11 billion connections and you've only got, 1,000 still is still a very robust number. You might not know everybody,
at the same level, for sure.
But you certainly have a stronger connection with that 1,000 than somebody that has 50,000 connections and it's just another tick on the box on your email list or something that that is getting out there. So I'm going to actually do that now. Go through my contacts, especially on my social media platform. Actually, the other platform, Facebook.
Yeah.
Send me the love letter. The love message. What do they say? You're nearing your 5,000 connections. Delete some people if you want to add more. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did I get to 5,000? Who have I added? And there's probably hundreds that I've never said anything to and have connected with for whatever reason at the time. So good to note that. There's something that I wanted to mention though, because before we give some examples, if you do want to do that,
sure.
Email marketing, daily messages or things that you're sending out. For some people, I was actually chatting with a colleague this week about email marketing and what's the sweet spot for sending out enough or not enough or too many. Because they cited that, I get so many of those and I don't delete them, but I should, or I should unsubscribe. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. The difference is there is a difference rather between email messaging that it's all about pitch, sell, versus I think the example you gave was like meaningful messages or video or vlogs or whatever that are being shared that have a defined purpose.
My journey in email marketing started many years ago. And first I wanted to, because I'm not a native English speaker, I hired the help of a writer. So I delegated. So I tried the delegation path. It didn't work out with me because it was very slow, very costly. In the end, it was not exactly the voice tone that I wanted, although the writer was very skilled. Then I went in the opposite direction. I started to email directly myself for 7 days a week. And I did this for 1 year. It's a style that is very powerful. A lot of other thought leaders, Seth Godin in marketing, if you know Seth Godin does it. He's been doing it for 15 or 20 plus years now. Jonathan Stark is another example. So that's another style that I experimented with. And what it did for me is that it really shed a lot of shallow thinking. In the first 50, you just say what kind of is standard, and then you don't run out of ideas. You're like, okay, what could I possibly write about then? And that's when it gets really interesting and valuable because you dig deeper and you start taking risk in your ideas. Maybe what I'm trying to say is this other thing, but if I say it this way, it's going to be a little controversial. So when I went that route, I started to get a lot of really interesting replies, and my open rate started to actually grow. Today, I write anywhere between 1 and 3 times a week.
Okay.
And my open rate in my email list is 52% on average. On average, it's like if you get 15%, it's high. My open rate it's not a very big list, but when people, and the feedback I got is like, when I read your emails, I'm wondering how you got to actually read my mind the night before. How did you do that? Like, it's exactly in words what I was thinking the day before. Of course, the topic happened to be the right one, but that's what I mean by meaningful marketing. So you can do that through email, which is the platform I highly recommend. Today, there are things like Substack that will accelerate the process. So also a very good platform, easier, more user-friendly and than other platforms, and maybe social oriented. So there's that option too. But you can also do that with video. And interestingly, so I started with doing the similar patterns on video in 2022. And what's really cool about the video process is that if you post your marketing, your ideas on YouTube, now it's literally in minutes, you get a transcription of what you just said. You can get that transcription, you can look at it and you can tweak it and you can improve on it. right? And so you can turn and reuse that transcript into a blog article or a LinkedIn message or a tweet, and you can, I mean, the possibilities are just endless. So all of those now technology possibilities just make for even stronger case for meaningful marketing, I feel like.
Plus, we've discovered that those transcripts are fantastic when positioned properly, of course, with your messaging for SEO. Like SEO, because everyone talks SEO, but and it's very important to have your messaging. Your messaging needs to be clear, but it needs to cut through the other noise that happens to be out there. And there's such a litany of it out there. So yeah,
I would agree with that, Carl.
Any other examples that you wanted to give about meaningful marketing? I have one more question I want to ask you.
Sure.
I want to give you some opportunity to share some of those other examples if you have any.
Yeah, I another practice I have, and I actually help some of my clients now start, is live webinars, free to attend, paid recording webinars. So here's the detail that is very important. When people think about a webinar, they think, oh yeah, I'm going to go to this thing, I'm going to learn a few things, but mostly it's going to be a bad sales pitch, but that's okay. I can get the recording after, and if I miss the session, it's all right. I'll just get the recording and just fast forward to the parts that I want. Because let's face it, I don't know about you and your experience, Carl, but in my experience, I've been on participating in webinars for like over 20 years. And the ratio of content to chat is very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
My recommendation is to do webinar very differently. First of all, invite people and tell them there won't be a recording. Or you can get the recording, but you will have to pay for it, say $100. So what's going to happen is that people are going to show up, and only the motivated people will show up. The people for which the topic is, guess what? Meaningful. Oh, now we circle back. And then in that webinar, reduce your sales pitch to maybe the last 10 to 5 minutes. And that's actually, I found in my experience, that's a question people want to know. Like, love your ideas, love your framework, love your product, love your service. How do I buy it? How do I work with it? So don't skip that part. But just do it at the end, properly without a pushy sales pitch. And invite people to just a delightful, immersive, insightful conversation. This will have so much more impact. You will see your leads just flourish by themselves, because people will really understand what you're trying to get at and just really want to buy from you for the right reasons instead of a fake one. That's a really good one. I actually made a note of that, either as a follow-up after we're finished the recording, or as I'm going to try that. See how that works. And by the way, I suspect a similar, maybe it has to be altered a little bit for the type of medium, but that type of concept would probably also work well for a podcast episode, because there are some podcast episodes that you tune into that it's a pitch fairly consistently every single week. It's a pitch towards this or that or whatever else, as opposed to, and I know it's a little bit of a different platform, but I like that idea, that way that you're inviting people, providing the recording, but there is no recording. I do want to ask this question though, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But if you have some ideas or some even opinions, we'll give you your opinion. We'll let you stand on a soapbox and share that. Mm-hmm. How is AI affecting the world of marketing and what you share and what you do? I'm surprised this is still a question, but it's a really good question. It's completely transforming it. If you're in marketing and you're not using AI, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by someone who uses AI. It has completely transformed in good ways and in bad ways. See, I'm a musician, and I play the keyboards. I was born in the early 70s, and I was young enough to remember the emergence of synthesizers in music, right? And I don't know if we have almost the same age, but people from our generation will probably remember that there is a lot of bands that use synthesizers in a really bad way. Like and now you can go on YouTube and find those old 70s, 80s songs with synthesizers, and there are some really cheesy stuff. Like you would look at this and burst laughing. But some bands also use synthesizer in a really good way, in a very I'm thinking about Giorgio Moroder, who recorded with Daft Punk in the mid 2010s, the author of Midnight Express, a movie from the 70s, and really understood the essence of the synthesizer. and it's evergreen. His stuff is still. So we're seeing the same thing with AI in marketing. You've got horrible stuff, and you have a minority of people who are smart enough to understand that AI should not replace you, but complement you and make you smarter, right? So that's what I lean into I use AI every day, all the time, Carl, but I don't make AI right for me. I use AI to make me smarter, to make me more creative, to challenge me. I ask AI, hey, I'm trying to write this. Are there any other ways you would say this? What am I missing? And I disagree with the AI a lot of the time. And the answers are a lot of the time dumb, but somehow, somewhere, I managed to find the nugget that I was dreaming of finding that I couldn't find by myself. Does it answer the question?
Totally, 100%. And I couldn't agree
Okay.
more. I know there's a lot of fear around AI. How many jobs is it going to replace? And I understand that. But as
Yeah.
you have already indicated, it's not the AI itself that's going to replace the jobs. It's how we
Yeah.
use it, how
Yeah.
we embrace it. We use AI all the time too. I mean, it's we would be idiots not to use it because there's so many great tools that podcasters and marketing agencies like ours can use to just enhance the final product. So clients love us all the time. And we can't say, sorry, can't make it sound any better or look any better because
Yeah.
we don't have those tools. Well, now we do have all of those tools right at our fingertips.
Yeah, and can I share an example? I think a poor right now. I was on podcast, a great conversation, by the way, and the host decided to run the podcast through this AI tool that grabs segments of it and will spit out 15 to 20 segments with the little subtitles.
Right.
And he started posting these, and I reached out and say, "Are you doing these with AI?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this with AI." I think the bot is not smart enough to really pick up the coolest part of our conversation. So I went to the recording and I said, in my opinion, here are the things that are really much better. So I don't think the robots are there yet on that particular one. I think they're still too dumb, but they'll get there.
It's true. I heard it. Well, it's funny because 2 weeks ago I heard it referred to as not artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence. You still need to be able to maneuver, put things into it, all kinds of things that,
right.
And you can't just put it on autopilot and expect it to know what to do. It might know mathematically what to do, but it might not. It doesn't have the same yet. I'll say yet. It doesn't have the emotion. It doesn't know what to go and get.
Yes, exactly. I'm learning something interesting here with you, Carl. Is like probably what I'm just trying to describe is augmented versus artificial.
This has been a great conversation. And by the way, your comment about synthesizers, spot on there. The other one that comes to mind that used it very well, Alan Parsons.
Oh yeah, yes. Oh, I love Alan Parsons.
Totally well. Yes. I'll play, especially live.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen any live videos of Alan Parsons, but even the recorded versions are phenomenal. But definitely knew how to.
Pink Floyd also.
Floyd's a good one too. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Oh my goodness, Guillaume, this has been a fantastic conversation. What would you like to pass along to our audience? Do you have a gift, a template, anything you'd like to share with them? Yeah,
if this conversation made you curious, go to my website, MetaHelm.com, and there is a simple exercise you can do through which I learned. People say they learned a lot. It's an assessment. It's just 12 questions, and you go there. And it's fairly fast, and it will help you get a sense for how authentic you're currently or meaningful you're developing your business. It covers more areas than marketing. It covers leadership, it covers sales, it covers operations. So it's a more holistic thing. But I invite people to just go there, take that assessment. Typically, I get an email when people get it, and I'll offer this for if you're listening to Carl's podcast today. I will respond personally to your assessment, and I will offer a 30 minutes conversation during which we can expand on the assessments and whatever question you may have. I guarantee this will not be a bad sales pitch. It will be a true conversation about you. That's my offer, Carl.
I love it. Thanks so much, Guillaume. Wow, what a fantastic offer. And I really appreciate you sharing that. So we'll make reference to that in the show notes, where you'll find all of Guillaume's information, his links to social media, which, by the way, if you want to make the short list, try connecting to them, or at least connect effectively. It starts with a conversation, right? It starts with at least a reach out. Before I turn you away, Guillaume Wiatr has been my guest today, so thank you so much. But before I turn you loose, a final thought.
My thought will go to the risk takers, the people. I mean, then you're one. I'm a little bit of a different animal, or crazy, or I bring in ideas that sound a little weird. And so keep being that person. That goes to you, Carl, and whoever you are here. If you're listening on this podcast and you feel like you're a little bit of the anomaly, that's okay to be the anomaly and be who you are and go create what you want to create.
I love it. That's a great place to leave it. Guillaume Wiatr, a meaningful conversation about meaningful marketing. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
My pleasure, Carl. It was a blast.
And thank you for joining us today. Special thanks to our producer and production lead, Dom Carrillo, our music guru, Nathan Simon, and the person who works the arms, all of our arms actually, my trusty assistant, Stephanie Gafour. If you like what you heard today, leave us a comment and a review, and be sure to share it with your friends. If you don't like what you heard, please share it with your enemies. Oh, and if you have a suggestion of someone who you think would make an amazing guest on the show, let us know about it. Drop us an email. Ask Carl at carlspeaks.ca. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. You'll find all those links in the show notes. And if you're ready to take the plunge and join the over 3 million people who have said yes to podcasting, let's have a conversation. We'll show you the simplest way to get into the podcasting space, because after all, we're podcast solutions made simple. We'll catch you next time.